Alright guys, so this is me, the Vengeful Tortoise, just doing a second upload. Firstly, I want to talk about the first upload a bit. So, I understand that probably, I'm assuming anyway, judging from my own scathing self-critique upon watching it after it was posted. So 12 minutes and 50 seconds of me just ranting about what the channel was going to be probably wasn't very interesting. And I have a feeling that that was a needlessly dry expenditure of everyone's time and oxygen and domain space. So, while I still think it served its purpose, I'm going to show you a little more, hopefully a little more passionate side of me, if you will. If you notice, my intonation and whatnot is probably already a little more lively. And that's just because I'm in an altogether better mood. So, I figured I should just do something a little more peppy, if you will. Star Fox reference, no. And hopefully this will give you a better idea in practice of what this video is actually, or channel is actually going to be about. So, in the last video I said that I was going to do a gaming vlog, and since I still haven't been able to record any gameplay of any games or anything, I figured that I may as well start out with that. So, I needed to find a topic, and then I figured, well, there's only one topic which is really hitting me hard lately, and hitting millions of people hard. And that's, of course, the, by now well-known, Sony screwing, potentially identity-threatening PSN havoc that one hacker's been causing. So yeah, so as we all know by now, I'm just going to give a quick sum up in case some people still, have been living under a rock for the past 2 weeks. Essentially there's been a lot of hullabaloo, if you will, over the fact that many people can't log into PSN, and for a while they just said that it was undergoing maintenance, so you're like, okay, so it should be up by, like, at most, like 2 or 3 days later, at most. And then, 1 day turned into 3, and 3 turned into 5, and now we're way into it, and it still hasn't come back yet. And there's a pretty infuriating reason for that. Apparently, Sony's security, I guess, isn't that great, or it's just a particularly prodigious hacker, I don't know. But, yeah, no, apparently a hacker came in and totally bombed the servers, and apparently now a bunch of our personal information is at their ransom. So that includes, let's see, it was a laundry list of things actually. Let's see, email, address, telephone, credit card information possibly, PSN ID, city that you live in, province or state, zip/postal code, things like that. Basically, everything you gave to them for your PSN account, that includes your real name, by the way, I almost forgot to mention that, is now at their ransom. So, you can imagine how infuriating this has been to just about every single PlayStation 3 owner, myself included. And so I figured this would make some pretty, pressing subject matter, some suitably urgent subject matter, if you will, for this second video. So, the first question is, of course, how is this going to impact Sony's clientele as far as PSN goes? And many people have said that there's going to be a major problem with potential identity theft and things like that. And I would say I'd pretty much have to agree with them, because it's pretty obvious that anytime there's any obvious jeopardy, or any obvious risk of personal information being in jeopardy, I should say, that it was probably targeted for that reason. I mean, I don't know a heck of a lot about hacking, but I would assume that if they're targeting information, or rather, if information's at risk, then they're probably targeting said information. So, of course, this is a pretty terrible thing that's happened, and frankly, I'm quite worried that something insane is going to happen. Like, I'll go into my inbox and I'll see, like several thousands of dollars in random bills, right? I mean, it shouldn't technically happen because I actually didn't put any credit card information up there. I just used prepaid cards. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not entirely certain as to the extent that it will really affect me, especially because credit card info is not an issue with me, and it's possible that it wasn't targeted in general, but it seems pretty unlikely that it wasn't, simply because what's the use in having a lot of that other information, with the possible exception being email address, if you're not going to, use it for any reason. So, but I don't know, whenever stuff like this happens, it's, especially in such a massive and frankly unheard of scale, it always just sort of worries me, and I really think that's probably the number one concern on everyone's mind right now, and rightfully so. And because of that fact, because it's such a major concern with everyone, I think it's entirely possible that we're going to see a rather large downturn in Sony's overall clientele. Frankly, I've always believed that the PS3's online has always been significantly, if not vastly, superior to that found on Xbox 360. Xbox Live you have to pay for, and frankly, it's not as good in terms of actual games or gameplay, in my opinion. I may sound like a bit of a fanboy or whatnot, but the fact is, it is superior, and anyone who honestly disagrees is frankly kind of deluding themselves. I mean, think about it. You have a more powerful machine, you have frankly a better controller and a better selection of games, in my opinion, but that's fairly open to debate, I guess. But then you have the fact that it's completely free online, with the exception of PlayStation Plus, which is purely optional. And so I think that this is going to really be the thing that sort of levels the playing field in terms of multiplayer, at least between the Microsoft Xbox 360 and the Sony PlayStation 3. I think that because of this, there's going to be a few people who, probably the ones predominantly at least, who aren't affected at all by it and aren't as freaked out about it. And they're going to be the ones that stick with Sony and stick with their PSN account and stick with their PS3 and whatnot. And I mean, that's cool, but at the same time, I think that there's going to be a lot of people who just can't stick with Sony because they don't want the risk of having that sort of thing happen again. And the worst part is, you can't even go in and change your PSN ID or password, which they're urging you to do once if it comes back up, by the way. So keep that in mind. But you can't even do that right now because they literally will not let you get back in because it's undergoing maintenance. Now, another one of the major infuriating things about this is that Sony essentially refused to give any real legitimate information about this. It was a total enigma until recently. For the first week of this whole thing, they didn't even bother to give any information because they probably didn't want to panic their clientele. And this is infuriating a lot of people, myself included, because even if it panics us, so what? We still have a right to know. We're their consumers. It didn't make any sense to me, frankly. Not even business-wise. I mean, business-wise, I guess it makes sense, but only in a really short-sighted, frankly, very, very dishonest and very ingenuine way. They were so scared over losing people that they ended up doing something and not noticing that that thing would actually probably end up costing them more people in the long run. I mean, how do you trust a company like that? In fact, one of my friends is seriously contemplating taking back his copy of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and trading it in for the 360 version, because he doesn't want to risk losing his PSN account and personal information, so he doesn't want to play online. And personally, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about it, because this information is a lot to take in. I'm not sure if I'm going to stop doing it. I'm certainly not going to be stopping playing my PS3 anytime soon, but I don't know, I mean, maybe I will get more into Xbox Live now or something. once everything settles down a bit and I can make an educated, rational decision about it. But I mean, it's kind of hit you like a juggernaut, or at least it has me, like to the extent that you're sort of putting up almost like a defense mechanism. You don't really want to deal with it, so it sort of feels like it shouldn't phase you, even though obviously it should, because it's a ton of personal information that's possibly being compromised. And then I think the really big question too is, what is this person planning on doing with said information? What are they planning on using it for? Is it something relatively innocent but nonetheless very detrimental? Like, they're going to order, just really expensive stuff and then charge it to your account. I'm not even sure if you could really do that, but I guess you could. I've heard of it happening. Or are they planning on doing something, illicit with it, or like selling it to the highest bidder or whatnot, which is infinitely worse, in my opinion. So I mean, it's a lot of, like, I don't know, like, I'd say Sony bit off more than it could chew, but honestly, they should have seen this sort of stuff coming. I mean, this is the internet age. It's not like we're living in, like, 1998, before Mafia Boy destroyed Google and Amazon and whatnot temporarily. Like, we're living in 2011. Like, they really should have seen this coming. I don't see how they couldn't have. It's mainly just security problems with Sony, and frankly, I'm not sure if I or many other people could really trust them. I mean, I've read messages on a blog on the Sony site, and they're not altogether positive. So, I don't know, but the running time's getting pretty high, so I'm going to, I guess, leave off here. Needless to say, it hasn't really just affected PSN multiplayer and stuff. It's also affected things like, the PlayStation Store and things like that. Like, for example, I received $40 worth of PlayStation Network cards for Easter, and I went to try them out, and went to see if the PSN was up. And sure enough, it wasn't. So, I mean, I was kind of annoyed, because I was gonna, go on a massive, well, not massive, but considerable spree and, get like FF8 and, I was planning on getting the Heavy Rain DLC and possibly the GTA 4 DLC and things like that. But now I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that, like, ever, let alone in the near future. And, I mean, obviously this is way less of a concern than the personal information, but it's still noticeable nonetheless. But I'm running out of time. And plus, I'm probably boring you guys anyway, although hopefully it's a little bit less annoying than the last video, probably, possibly, maybe, hopefully not, was. So, in conclusion, my question to you guys should be fairly obvious. How does the PSN fiasco affect you, if at all? What are your opinions on it? And, what do you think it'll drive you to do? Like, will you stay with Sony because you're a loyal fan, or are you a loyal fan or casual fan or whatever who's just said this is too far, like going too far, and I can't trust them anymore? And if so, why? Well, not if so, but like depending on your answers, like just like I just want to hear from you guys. So until next time, this is the Vengeful Tortoise. Like, comment, rate, subscribe, as long as you're not a troll. Peace and stay metal.